An 8-year-old child lost in a freezing winter forest will typically succumb to hypothermia in less than 48 hours. Yet in the autumn of 1904, young Lily Vance vanished into the deepest thickets of Germany's Black Forest. She walked away from her family's remote logging camp near Freiburg, wearing only a light cotton pinafore. Within hours, the dense canopy swallowed her whole, blocking out the fading afternoon sun. The temperature in these ancient woods drops rapidly as darkness falls, chilling the blood. Without immediate shelter, a child's small body mass loses heat 4 times faster than an adult's. Lily's frantic parents searched the immediate perimeter, their lanterns flickering weakly against the rising dark. Their desperate shouts were absorbed by the thick, damp moss carpet covering the forest floor. By midnight, a freezing mist descended, coating every pine needle in a layer of frost. The human body's first defense against extreme cold is involuntary shivering, a desperate attempt to generate heat. But shivering rapidly depletes glycogen stores, leaving the muscles exhausted and weak. As her core temperature dipped, Lily began to experience the early disorienting stages of exposure. Her steps grew heavy and erratic as she stumbled blindly over slippery, decaying roots. The dense wilderness of Freiburg offered no paths, only endless corridors of towering pines. Every direction looked identical in the shadows, compounding her rising panic and fear. Panic increases the heart rate, pumping precious warm blood away from the vital core. She was completely alone, miles from any human help as the first night closed in. Her survival seemed mathematically impossible, a tragic certainty written into the freezing mountain air. Seeking refuge from the biting wind, Lily crawled deep inside the hollow trunk of an ancient oak tree. The decaying wood provided a crude barrier, trapping a microscopic pocket of slightly warmer air. As she curled into a tight ball, her breathing shallow, she prepared for the inevitable sleep of hypothermia. But as her eyes drifted shut, a soft rustling sound echoed from the darkness of the hollow. A tiny figure emerged from the rotten wood, standing barely 4 inches tall. The creature possessed delicate translucent wings that resembled dried pine needles and forest detritus. Lily would later call this mysterious guardian Pip, a presence that defied all rational explanation. In medical science, extreme isolation and cold can trigger vivid, highly detailed sensory hallucinations. The brain, starved of warmth and comfort, constructs familiar entities to preserve the will to live. Yet whether Pip was a product of a dying child's mind or something real, the survival advice was tangible. The tiny creature did not use magic, but instead demonstrated a profound understanding of forest ecology. Pip gestured urgently, keeping the shivering girl awake and focused on her immediate surroundings. To fall asleep now meant certain death, as the body's metabolic furnace would slowly extinguish. The small companion nudged Lily's frozen fingers, guiding her attention to the natural shelter. Together, they stuffed the gaps in the hollow trunk with dry moss and fallen leaves. This primitive insulation helped retain the fragile bubble of body heat she was desperately losing. The simple act of physical labor kept Lily's sluggish circulation moving through her cold limbs. By dawn, the child had survived her first night, defying the grim statistics of wilderness exposure. Dehydration is a silent killer in cold environments, often overlooked because of the freezing temperatures. The dry winter air siphons moisture from the lungs with every single breath a person takes. Nearby streams flowed with clear mountain water, but they carried a deadly threat of cholera. Drinking from stagnant or contaminated sources would trigger severe dysentery, causing rapid, fatal dehydration. Pip guided Lily away from the dangerous open water, pointing instead to the wild rhubarb plants nearby. Huge, cup-like leaves of the wild rhubarb collected pristine, uncontaminated morning dew. Lily carefully licked the pure water droplets from the broad green surfaces each morning. This clever strategy kept her hydrated without exposing her fragile immune system to lethal pathogens. But hydration was only half the battle. Her body was rapidly burning through its caloric reserves. Without food, her brain would soon lose the ability to regulate her core body temperature. While Lily rested, the tiny guardian gathered high-energy forest offerings from the surrounding brush. Pip dropped nutrient-dense pine nuts and tiny wild strawberries directly into Lily's lap. Pine nuts are rich in fats and proteins, providing the perfect fuel for a freezing body. The natural sugars in the wild strawberries gave her immediate bursts of cognitive energy. It was a meticulous, microscopic harvest designed to sustain a human life 1 calorie at a time. Every small portion of food was a vital brick in her defense against physical collapse. Lily's digestive system adapted, extracting every ounce of nutrition from these meager gifts. Her body was entering a state of conservation, slowing its metabolic rate to survive the ordeal. The biological synergy between the girl and her tiny guide kept her organs functioning against all odds. Day after day, this silent partnership turned a hostile wilderness into a fragile sanctuary of life. Cold and hunger were not the only predators lurking in the shadows of the Black Forest. On the 6th night, a heavy silence fell over the woods, signaling the approach of danger. A wild wolf pack was prowling the area, their keen senses tracking the scent of a vulnerable child. Lily huddled deep within her hollow oak, paralyzing fear gripping her tiny chest. The adrenaline spike caused her heart to race, threatening to give away her hidden position. The wolves circled closer, their heavy paws crunching softly on the frozen pine needles. Their glowing yellow eyes scanned the dark undergrowth, searching for any sign of movement. A single whimper or rustle would have sealed Lily's fate in an instant. From a high branch above, the tiny figure of Pip prepared a desperate defensive distraction. Using her surprisingly resonant voice, Pip mimicked the piercing screeching call of a barn owl. The sharp, sudden sound echoed through the silent canopy, shattering the quiet night. The wolves paused, their ears twitching as they assessed the sudden, startling noise. Pip repeated the screech, directing the sound away from the hollow tree and deeper into the brush. Confused by the auditory illusion, the alpha wolf turned away, leading the pack toward the sound. The predators melted back into the shadows of the forest, their hunting pattern successfully broken. Lily released her breath, her body trembling from the intense physical toll of the near miss. The psychological stress of predator encounters can cause profound cognitive fatigue, but the tiny guardian remained vigilant, watching over the sleeping girl from her high perch. By the 2nd week, the physical toll of exposure began to warp Lily's cognitive faculties. Extreme cold induces a dangerous state of apathy, where the victim simply loses the will to fight. The brain slows down, and a seductive, fatal drowsiness begins to take over the mind. To combat this lethal lethargy, Pip introduced a unique auditory defense mechanism. She began teaching Lily a complex 3-note canopy song hummed in a hypnotic rhythm. The simple melody required active mental concentration to memorize and repeat back. Neuroscientists know that singing engages multiple regions of the brain simultaneously, stimulating cognitive function. It forced Lily's prefrontal cortex to remain active, preventing her from drifting into a fatal coma. Through the bitter, sub-zero nights, the girl's weak voice echoed softly inside the hollow oak. The rhythmic breathing required for singing also helped stabilize her heart rate and oxygen levels. It became a lifeline, a vocal thread keeping her anchored to consciousness and survival. Even when her body screamed for sleep, Pip would nudge her, prompting the next note. The song became a physical shield, warding off the creeping numbness of the freezing nights. It was a testament to the power of sound and focus in the face of biological collapse. For 17 days, this fragile melody was the only barrier between life and death. The forest itself seemed to quiet down to listen to the child's desperate, beautiful refrain. Her resilience was no longer just physical. It had become an act of pure, rhythmic willpower. The 3 notes became her heartbeat, pulsing through the dark, frozen expanse of the woods. On the 17th morning, a weary search party pushed deeper into the uncharted sections of the forest. They had long abandoned hope of finding the young girl alive, searching only for her remains. Suddenly, a faint rhythmic sound drifted through the dense frosted pine branches. It was a strange 3-note melody, weak but distinct, echoing from a distant hollow. Following the haunting song, the rescuers hurried through the thick undergrowth toward the source. Inside the hollow oak, they found Lily Vance, miraculously conscious and breathing. Her skin was surprisingly warm, her vital signs stable despite over 2 weeks of exposure. Medical examiners were baffled by her lack of frostbite and her clear, uninfected lungs. As they lifted her exhausted body, Lily refused to let go of a small, delicate object. Clutched tightly in her dirty hand was a tiny hand-woven crown made of pure thistle silk. The intricate weaving was far too small and precise to have been made by human fingers. It was the only physical evidence of the 4-inch savior who had kept her alive. Science can explain the survival tactics, the hydration from dew, and the cognitive benefits of song, but it cannot explain the physical existence of the tiny thistle crown left in her hand. Perhaps the human will to survive is capable of manifesting its own miracles in the dark. Or perhaps, in the deepest corners of the Black Forest, we are never truly as alone as we think. The tiny crown remains a silent testament to a friendship that transcended the limits of human survival.